So today I'm going to be teaching you how to make very beautiful looking text graphics using Adobe Illustrator using a technique called Envelope Distort. What that means is you are distorting the text to a shape that's above it. The first thing I'm going to do is pick an extremely simple shape. So I'm picking an apple. I'm going to go to Google search and I just want an image of a very simple line drawing of an apple. I go to image search and then I go to tools and then to type and I hit line drawing. Once I find a simple line drawing of an apple, I'm going to right click on it, copy it. I'm going to open up Photoshop. I'm going to create a new document in Photoshop. I'm going to paste the apple in and I'm going to save it as apple. When I'm done doing that, I'm going to open up Adobe Illustrator and I'm going to create new a letter-sized document in Adobe Illustrator. And I'm going to then go File, Place. And I'm going to find that apple and I'm going to open it, go to the upper left-hand corner and place it in my document. And then I need to resize it. When you pull the corner using the selection tool, you might accidentally distort the apple, so hold the shift key down and that will maintain the aspect ratio. I'm going to go to the layer menu. I'm going to create a new layer and I'm now going to use the pen tool to create in that new layer an outline of the shape of the apple. So I click with the pen tool along the contours of the apple, along the edge of that apple. Every time the apple turns or bends or you hit an angle, you're going to click and make another point so it follows the contour of the apple. Now you have to do this all the way around until you get to the beginning, and then you have to click on the same point that you started with. That is the anchor point. If you don't do that, you won't have a closed shape. So once I've done that, I'm going to click that little diagonal red line and that's going to make my new path, my new shape empty, so there's nothing filling it in. I'm now going to go to the text tool, T for text. I'm going to click on my document and I want to add some text, but I need to change the style of lettering to a style that I like, not the default lettering. So once I picked a style I like, I want to make it larger so I can see what I'm doing, and I'm going to type in the word apple. Now, once I've typed in the word apple, I want it to be below the shape that I just drew. So you right click, you hit arrange, and you hit send to back or send backwards. Now the apple is below the shape that I just drew. So now I'm going to click on the apple to select it. I'm going to hold the shift key down and I'm going to click on the shape I just created. So now both of them are selected, and then I'm going to go Object, Envelope Distort, use top image. So it's going to distort the word apple to the shape that I drew. And you can see the word apple fits in there perfectly. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw another shape for the leaf. So I'm going to go back to my pen tool and I'm going to start clicking along the points of the leaf until I get a closed shape. So I've got to go back to my anchor point and click on that, or else I will not have a closed shape. So every time the leaf bends or turns or there's an angle, I'm going to click again to put down another point until I have closed my shape. And if I do not want the shape to be filled in the middle, I'm going to click on that diagonal red line, and that means that the vector path is empty. There's nothing inside it. Now I'm going to write the word leaf with my text key. My text, add the word leaf, and I need to arrange it so that it's in back of the shape I just created. So send backwards. And then I'm going to select the leaf, hold the shift key down, select the shape that I just drew. And now when they're both selected, I'm going to go Object, Envelope Distort, create with top object. And there we have the word leaf. And now I'm going to do that again for the stem. What I found for the stem was that it didn't look quite right because I couldn't read it. So if that happens, what you're going to do is you just double click on the shape that you've just created, and it will allow you to edit the text. So what I did was I clicked on it until the word stem came up, and I actually rotated the text so that it was vertical, and then it looked a lot better. That's what makes this technique so special, is that if you just hover your cursor over the envelope distort that you just created and you double click it, you can pull up the text and edit it. You can change the font, you can change the direction that the text is going. It gives you a great deal of flexibility because it is still editable text. So right now I'm going to double click. I'm going to rotate the text, and you'll be able to read the word stem. Now when you edit the text, it puts you in something called isolation mode. So you're going to have to go up to the layer menu and you're going to hit exit isolation mode in order to get back into being able to edit the rest of the document. So this is my apple. Now with Adobe Illustrator, in addition to saving your file, you're going to need to do something called exporting it. An Adobe Illustrator document can't necessarily be read by other programs. So what you're going to do is you're going to do File, Save As, and name it. And then you're going to actually do File, Export, and you're going to export it as and pick a different format. So I'm picking, in this case, a PNG, which is a portable network graphic, which means it's going to have just the black lettering, but no background. Other ways that you can export it are a JPEG, which would give you a nice white background. If you're turning in your work to your teacher, a JPEG is a good format to use. And the other format is SVG, or Scalable Vector Graphic, which is if you're going to be resizing it and you don't want to lose any of the information. Okay, now I'm going to create another envelope distort of a heart. And I'm going to hit the tools, I'm going to hit line drawing, and I'll get a simple line drawing of a heart. I'll copy it, I'll do File New in Photoshop, I'll paste it into Photoshop, and then I will save it as heart. And I will then go to Adobe Illustrator. I'll create a new document in Adobe Illustrator, letter size. I'll do File, Place, just like I did last time, and I'm going to place the heart into Adobe Illustrator. Click on the upper left-hand corner when you're placing a new object, and to resize it, in addition to the selection key, you always hit the shift key so that you don't lose the aspect ratio, so it doesn't distort. Now I'm going to create a new layer, layer new, and I'm going to use the pen tool, and I'm going to outline the heart. You can't draw with the pen tool, you just move the cursor, and every time it turns or you go around an angle, you're going to click. So just like last time, you're going to create an outline of the heart and you're going to click on the very first dot that you clicked on the line to create a closed shape. That's your anchor point. Go to the diagonal little square so that it's empty. You're going to click on the text. You want to create a different style of text, make it larger. And you're going to pick a font that you like. You just click anywhere and you create the text. It does not have to be on top of the heart. It in fact can be anywhere on the page. And you're going to, once you've picked your font, in this case I'm going to write the word love because it's a heart. So I write the word love with my text in a text layer. Place the text anywhere in the document. pick a font that you like, arrange the text that is below the shape. So you do arrange and then send backwards. Pick both the shape and the text and do envelope distort using top shape, and it will distort to the shape of the heart. Now if you don't like the heart or you want to tweak it, I feel it's a little angular, you just click on that little mesh icon in the upper left hand area, and that's to edit the shape. So that's edit envelope. And if you go to the distort tool, which is in the toolbar, you can drag the lines out to make the heart a little bit softer and rounder, which is what I'm doing now. I'm editing the heart now. Now what I'm going to do next is I'm going to show you how to do the type on a path tool. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to draw another heart. I'm going to create another layer. I'm going to go to the layer menu, layer new, and I'm going to take the pen tool again and trace around the edge of the heart, but this time in a new layer. When I'm done and I get to the very end, I'm going to make sure that I click on that first dot that I put down, which is the anchor, and that will give me a closed shape. If you don't do that, you don't have a closed shape. And then I'm going to click on the type tool, and underneath it, one of the choices is type on a path. So I'm going to click type on a path, and I'm going to go to the beginning of my line, and I'm going to just click there with the type on the path tool, and that will give me a line of type that goes around the contour of my heart. On the line, it just basically follows the line I just drew. And I'm just typing the word love over and over and over again all the way around the heart. So that's the type on a path tool. If I go back and I highlight the text, I can change the font, I can change the size of the type, and I've got a lot of choices because this is editable text. So I'm going to show you a few other instances where I use the type on a path tool. With this penny farthing bicycle, I created circles and used the envelope distort to create the wheels. I used the pen tool to draw the shape of the seat and use the envelope distort to create the seat. But all the lines were created using the pen tool and then type on a path. Now I'm going to show you how to do something slightly more complex. I'm going to show you how I did the shark. If I tried to use envelope distort to put the entire shark into the document in an envelope distort, it would look all messed up. So what I did was I did the shark in sections. Let me just resize it, place it into my Illustrator document, and create a new layer like I did before, and use the pen tool to trace the vector path of the shark. But in this case, I'm not going to include the head or the body. I'm just going to do I'm not going to include the head or the tail. I'm just going to include the body and the fins. So I'm just typing along the path. I have to make the inside empty because otherwise the filling is going to block some stuff that I need to see. But I'm going along the body. I'm not going to include the head. I'm going to include the fins though, and I'm not going to include the tail. And every time it bends, I'm going to click another point down, and when I get to the beginning, I'm going to close it by clicking on my anchor point. So now I'm going to put the word shark just inside here. So I hit the text key, I change the size. I want a nice angular style because I think of the sharp teeth of a shark. So I'm going to pick a very angular sans serif style. I'm going to write the word shark. I'm going to arrange. I'm sending it to the back so that it's in back of the shape that I just drew. I'm going to click on the shark with the selection tool and also click on the shape I just drew. And I'm going to do object, envelope distort, use top object. Now in this case, I'm not real thrilled with the letters, how they're kind of overlapping each other. So I'm going to click on that mesh on the upper left-hand corner, and I'm going to start modifying my envelope. So I'm just going to kind of push it out so that the letters aren't overlapping anymore. And once I've modified my envelope, I'm going to create a new layer, and I'm going to trace a different part of the shark. So in this case, I'll do the tail. Now, as you can see, when I filled the tail in with the word shark, it wasn't exactly readable, but I decided to leave it, that it was actually fine. And so I used Envelope Distort. I filled in the shark's tail. In this case, I decided to do another shape just of the top part of the head, because I know the shark has an open mouth, and I was worried that that hard angle would distort the letters and make them unreadable. So I created another layer, and I used my pen tool, and I clicked along the contours of the top of the shark's head, everything that was above, that was part of the top of the head up to the end of the top jaw. And then I typed the word shark again. I sent it to the back, so it was, well, I sent it backwards so that it was below the shape. And then I selected both the shape and the word shark, and I did my Envelope Distort using the top object. And I then did the same thing with the shark's lower jaw. In the sample, I even made little envelope distorts for each tooth. I'm not going to do that now. But you can see when I delete the bottom layer that I do indeed have the outline of a shark. Now, if I tried to use the entire shark shape and tried to envelope distort it, the letters would be unreadable. It wouldn't work. It wouldn't look good. So you have to approach it differently depending on how complex the shapes are. This was a version of the shark I created earlier where I did envelope distorts for each tooth. In this case, you can clearly see the different shapes that I created for the word VW, for the word bug, for the word joy, peace, and love. But I'm going to do a different one now using the same VW bug. I'm placing it in my document. I'm resizing it. I'm creating a new layer. I'm using the pen tool to create a simplified shape over the VW bug. And then I'm going to, I don't want it to have the filling inside because it's hard to see the wheels. So I'm going to click on that diagonal red line to make it empty. And then I'm clicking around the wheels, very carefully making the one shape. And in this case, the shape is simple enough that I should be able to do an envelope distort for the entire thing. So I'm going to pick some kind of funky 1960s style letters, and I'm going to create my lettering. Then I need to send the lettering to the back by hitting arrange, and then I'm going to do an envelope distort once I have the lettering style I like. So I'm writing love bug. Just making sure I'm selecting both things, and then envelope distort using top object. Now, in this case, I don't like the way the U and the G are kind of overlapping each other, so I'm going to click on the mesh tool at the top for edit envelope, and then I'm going to click on the warp tool and start pulling the lines out to create a softer look for my love bug. So I'm distorting the outline, and the letters are until I like the way the letters look. If you look at the original one I did, you'll see that I did separate circles for the tires. So this would be a good time for me to talk about how to create simple shapes like circles. You could see there's a shape tool there in the toolbar on the left. And if I click the Shift and the Alt key, I'll get a perfect circle, and I can just pull it out. Then if I create lettering and I send that, hit arrange and send that lettering to the back, and the circle will be within the lettering will be within the envelope of the circle. Now I'm going to create another circle, and I'm going to use the warp feature to distort the circle, and I'm going to click on the envelope and change the envelope. So I'm clicking up there, I'm hitting the distort feature, and I'm going to just start pulling on the points in the envelope and changing the shape. So instead of it being a circle, it's now a flame. So that gives you some flexibility to take simpler shapes and make them more complex. You just have to be careful that you don't twist the shape, because it'll mess up the letters. Once you've done a few of these, you're going to start to be able to look at them and be able to figure out how many envelope distorts each one has, and where the artist used type on a path, and how many shapes they broke it down to if it's a more complex form. You're also going to start to notice examples of envelope distort and type on a path everywhere you look, in advertising, on t-shirts, in graphic design.